Today is the day you are going to receive a $30 million wire and close on the sale of your business. You wake up well rested after a perfect 8 hours of sleep. A couple of weeks ago, you signed a contract with a private equity fund, and after a relatively painful process, you step out onto your balcony knowing that your life is about to change forever. After 5 years of building your business like an absolute psychopath, that life-changing wealth that everyone talks about is about to come your way. 8 figures. Liquid. You have an hour before the closing call is scheduled, so you decide to take a walk on the beach. You reflect on all the trials and tribulations you've been through building that business and all of the adversity you've had to overcome. You can't help but think about that new Rolls-Royce Phantom you're about to order, or that new beachfront mansion you're about to buy. The time is finally here. You get on the closing call, the attorneys all confirm the transaction, and that's it. You're now part of the new rich. Except it really doesn't happen anything like that. The stress of selling to private equity took at least 5 years off my lifespan, but it remains one of the most rewarding experiences that any entrepreneur can achieve. I want to share the entire M&A process with you guys, as well as all the details of my experience so you can apply it to your own hero's journey. So first off, when I say M&A, it means mergers and acquisitions. This is a specialized field of law that focuses on deal making. When you're buying or selling a business, you'll engage a specialized M&A attorney. Typically, when you're selling a company, you'll either list the business with a broker or you'll hire an investment banker to shop it. Sometimes, though, you'll get unsolicited offers, and that's what happened in my scenario. So in my case, we weren't actively shopping the business, but our contract manufacturer reached out and they said they had been in talks with a firm that was also interested in talking with us. I said, you know what, why not? And decided to take the call. They were great guys. To this day, they remain great guys. They were interested in growing the business. They had a track record of growing companies my size further, and we ended that initial call with an agreement that they were interested in looking at my financials. We both signed a non-disclosure agreement, an NDA, and our accounting team sent them all of the numbers. We traded a couple more emails around some minor questions, and I remember it very clearly. On a Friday afternoon, we received an email entitled LOI. Now, for those of you that don't know, an LOI is a letter of intent. A letter of intent is a page or two document that someone sends when they are expressing their confirmed desire to buy a company. An LOI usually contains the purchase price, deal structure, and other key points of the deal. Private equity fund X will be buying 80% of your company at a $30 million valuation. You will sign a 5-year non-compete and serve as the transitory CEO until new management is brought in. Something like that. They also set the target date as to when they want to close. All right, so here's where I can start sharing some of the first real mistakes with you guys. Seeing that number on paper, it was absolutely mind-blowing to me. I wanted to immediately sign it, get the deal done, and just ride off into the sunset. You know what I mean? I was so pleased with that number that I never went out and got a professional valuation or any sort of backup offer. I'd find out well after the close that I probably left a nice chunk of cash on the table by not doing this. I also created some discontent internally with my executives. Selling a business inherently means change for your organization. There will be new management. There will be a transition period. I believe I was able to effectively scale my business so fast over the years because I always put others ahead of me from a leadership perspective. I was always the last to eat, and now all of a sudden, that message was becoming very blurry. I remember when the LOI first came across, I sat down with my right-hand man, who also happened to be my best friend. I pointed at that number and I said, I get that? And he kind of just sarcastically responded with a, yeah, you get that. This was the first of many tensions to come, and as I later would come to appreciate, minimalizing internal conflict is key while you grind through the due diligence process. So after you sign the LOI and hire your M&A attorney, you now embark on the due diligence process. Due diligence is essentially the private equity firm's detailed investigation and audit into your financials, business practices, operating structure, and pretty much every little detail that you can think of. They schedule about 6 months for the due diligence process. The private equity firm will now officially name your deal some code name as well, something along the lines of like Project Watermelon or Project Orange. Every deal gets some name like this. Then they hand you a huge initial request document that has all sorts of questions and requests for information. They then open up a data room, which is an online server, and they expect you to upload all of that information into the data room. At this time, you're also going to start something called the quality of earnings. This is where an independent accounting firm is contracted to come in and basically tear apart all of your financials. They want to make sure the business is actually making what they say it is. So doing a deal in and of itself is essentially a full-time job and then some. But not only are you doing the deal, you also have the expectation that you are 100% focused on and growing your business this entire time. You're basically signing up for 6 months of double time with literally quadruple the pressure. You're spending money on attorney's fees. You're dedicating substantial time to this process with absolutely no guarantee that it actually will end. So for those of you that don't know me in detail, I fall more on the creative spectrum. I'm known for like innovation, ideation, psychology, marketing. My right-hand man that I told you about earlier, he was the operationally driven leader within our organization. He stayed on top of the financials. He was on top of the organization, banking, infrastructure, all that stuff. That means a large majority of the data room requests, those fell on his shoulders. Now, he stood to financially gain by closing this deal, but the minute the LOI was signed, there was a sense of frustration building. This frustration only mounted as the requests kept piling on and I became more unstable. There is a term in the M&A process that everyone is familiar with. It's called deal fatigue. Basically, as these deals grind month over month, founders want to throw in the towel and just get it done by any means necessary. The closer you get to the finish line, the more fatigued you become. It's a very real thing. You see, once you finish the initial due diligence request, you then receive the purchase and sale agreement. Mine was almost 100 pages long, and this is fairly common. Mine was actually probably pretty short. There's all sorts of sticking points crammed throughout this agreement, and you have to go through it with your M&A counsel and figure out what is and isn't acceptable. This requires calls with the other side, calculated negotiations, and really just so much more. It's grueling. The first purchase agreement you get is gonna, be them asking for the world, and you have to start picking your battles on what you want and what you can take back. As a seller, you're looking for some combination of a quality future with enough rights in the business and general protection against any clawbacks should they mismanage the business or any issues arise. I'm progressively becoming more and more of a nervous wreck as this thing goes on. I want to sell this business in the first place because I've become uneasy with the Amazon landscape back then. Now, in hindsight, this was very dumb of me. I always remember feeling like it could be taken away from me at any given moment, though. For those of you that saw my first video about my story and what we had to overcome, I'll link it here or somewhere, but we had a situation a year prior with reviews getting wiped by Amazon and our business being dramatically punished. We essentially lost half of our business overnight and had a different deal fall apart with a different PE fund. It's a good video. You should check it out. Maybe it's still linked, or whatever the editors are doing. Given the history, I literally started looking at this deal as if I was going to either get stupid rich or it was literally going to fall apart, the company would implode, and I would be considered an absolute bum. That was my frame. So now at this point, I'm barely sleeping. I'm pushing everyone to get this deal done as fast as possible. I'm giving in on points I probably shouldn't have that will absolutely bite me in the ass later. All of this stress peaked about a week or two before the deal. Now keep in mind at this point, every night, I'm waking up like 3 or 4 times a night. I wake up super early and I can't go back to sleep. The stress is genuinely starting to me up. So the weekend before the deal is supposed to close, I go to this marketing conference in San Diego, and on the first day of the conference, I remember waking up at 3 a.m. and desperately pulling up my products on Amazon. This is like a habit I did. I wake up in the middle of the night, gotta check they're still there. This particular morning, all of the reviews are gone from my bestseller, Genius Joy. It has 0 reviews. It's like 3 a.m. I'm a week away from the deal closing, and I remember sitting in this hotel room feeling freaking isolated and alone, broken and just certain that my business is collapsing. Now by 4:30, I've come to realize that this is a glitch. Someone, reselling had added a 2-pack to our listing and it caused some issue with the reviews. By 6 a.m., I had it fixed, but I was like disgustingly rattled and just unsettled. That day sucked in general, and I was so unnerved and rattled, but this was just the beginning. That evening, I had a friend offer me an oil from one of the dispensaries in San Diego. He said it would help take the edge off and get me in a good place, so I obliged. To this day, I don't know if it was laced, I don't know if I took too much of it, but I experienced some crazy psychosis. I just remember feeling like the world was ending. I remember feeling certain that I was gonna lose my house somehow out of all this, right? Not only was the business gonna implode, but I wasn't gonna be able to afford my mortgage. I was gonna have to start again with absolutely nothing. I ended up curled up in a hotel room that entire entire night. Somehow I was unable to pass out. I was unable to sleep. I was stuck in this state of like pure insanity with worst case scenarios unfolding faster and faster and faster. If something bad could happen, it was happening in my head. I remember calling my best friend and just losing it. Like I think I was like literally crying. After 6 months of both the due diligence process and taking care of me, he was super clear. He couldn't handle it anymore. He wanted out. The rest of that night and my flight out the next day was an absolute blur. On Monday, my friend formally resigned, effective immediately, a couple days before the close. The PE fund was a bit shocked at the news, but they found some alternatives that would still get the deal done. By the grace of God, we did make it to the closing day. Deals finalized with a closing call where all the attorneys get on a conference call, everyone says they're all good, and then the wires shoot out a couple hours later. I didn't wake up well rested that morning. I woke up at 2 a.m. and I waited until the 9 a.m. call was upon us. After we got the deal done, I was so emotionally, mentally, and physically exhausted, I literally couldn't think straight. I had just changed the trajectory of my life forever, but I also lost one of the best people I had ever known and had grown up with. This was young Rob being introduced to the dualistic nature of our experience. In search of peace, this deal eventually led me to take a year off and reconnect with my spiritual side in a way that my soul truly needed. But that's another story for a different day. I hope that when you sell your company, you can learn from my troubles and enter the arena with a mind capable of maximizing your outcome and minimizing your spiritual damage. I actually plan to collaborate with some actual private equity operators here soon and get them on the channel to show you guys the other side of the table. So subscribe for more free game. Hit me up on IG if you have any questions. My mentorship is frequently filling up, but I constantly post about it on there. Stay tuned. Major love, y'all.